Hi, I'm Dr. Anne Alwis from the Department of Classical and Archaeological Studies at the University of Kent. This video is a brief introduction to women in the Aeneid. First, we need to understand the wider context. In the Greco-Roman world, when you talk about women, you have to talk about morality. And when I say morality, I really mean sexual morality. It was out of the question for a respectable woman to be a sexual being. The roles for respectable women were either virginal daughter or wife. And being a wife basically meant being a mother. It was the same thing. Women were policed because women's bodies over 2,000 years ago and still now are trouble. This is because women give birth. Sons are needed for inheritance. Daughters are used to create alliances by marrying them off to the right family. And so husbands were completely paranoid that their wives would have affairs and produce illegitimate children. Why did they think women would have affairs? Well, because women were believed to lack control and be prone to excess. Women were thought to be naturally lustful, weak, both mentally as well as physically, and greedy. They drank too much and talked too much. The prototype is Pandora, who opened the box, though actually it's a jar, even though she was told not to. She released all that is bad in the world, disease and evil, and that is why we suffer. It's a woman's fault. Not only did the ideal woman have to be sexually chaste, she had to be modest in speech, so no speaking out of turn, and modest in appearance, so no dressing provocatively. Essentially, she had to be seen and not heard, and not seen too much. Because of all these ideas, women were connected to the well-being of the state, the res publica, and this is where Augustus and the Aeneid come in. First, the state's prosperity depends on the will of the gods. The gods' goodwill, in turn, depends on the behavior of the elite, because they were the people who mattered. When the elite were immoral, they neglected religion. And why? Because they were off having affairs. And who is to blame for the affairs? It's the women. The woman is the one who is weak, susceptible, and always to blame. And so it goes women, affairs, neglect religion, anger gods, state in turmoil. So how does all this feed into the Aeneid? Well, we have all different types of women, these types of women, represented. And first of all, let's start with two examples of typically virtuous women. Creusa, Aeneas' wife, and this is she on the intaglio, and Lavinia, his future bride. Creusa is perfect because first, she has given Aeneas a son. She has done her duty. Second, she does not give Aeneas any problems. In terms of the plot, Creusa has to die because Aeneas needs to be single when he meets Lavinia at the end of the epic and form an alliance with her family. Creusa dies as the family escape from Troy, but her ghost, here in the picture, doesn't blame Aeneas for her death. She does what a good Roman wife would do to a husband with a mission. She tells him to move on and not to think about her. She doesn't hold him back emotionally. Creusa has served her purpose. Lavinia, Aeneas' future bride, is a perfect woman because she literally says nothing, not a single word in the entire epic. She is there to be a suitable bride. With their marriage, Aeneas forges a suitable alliance and ends his mission. However, Creusa and Lavinia are the only virtuous women in the epic. The Aeneid is packed with unsuitable women. They're unsuitable because they all hinder Aeneas in different ways. They stop him fulfilling his mission to found Rome. A common theme is disorder. Women create disorder and men create order. Consider the goddess Juno, and there's a statue of her, Aeneas' nemesis. The storm she whips up that causes Aeneas to be shipwrecked is the epitome of elemental disorder. Then Juno causes Dido, an African queen, to fall in love with Aeneas. Their relationship prevents Aeneas from moving on, but Dido's love is not a simple crush. It is disorder personified. Dido's love is a burning, desperate love that causes her to go out of her mind and ultimately to commit suicide. Chaos trails in Juno's wake. Juno also instigates disorder in another of Aeneas' enemies, Amata, Lavinia's mother. She can't stand Aeneas and wants her daughter to marry Turnus instead. After Juno incites her, Amata is described as someone out of control, so much so that she's compared to a whirling spinning top. The disorder and chaos surrounding these women all have a purpose: to prevent Aeneas from moving forwards. Okay, so let's move on from disorder now and look at some other women who hinder Aeneas in other ways. One such woman is Andromache, a Trojan princess. Andromache is someone who is violently resistant to the future. She continually lives in the past, which is the opposite of what Aeneas should do. Aeneas always needs to look to the future because he has to found the beginnings of an empire. However, there's a big reason, a good reason, why Andromache's attitude is understandable, why she always lives in the past, since her life is one of unbearable tragedy. In the past, Achilles killed her father, her 7 brothers, and her beloved husband Hector, whom she mourns in the picture. In some versions, it gets even worse when her baby son, Astyanax, and you can see him in the painting here. So Astyanax is killed by Achilles' son, Neoptolemus. She has absolutely no luck with this family. And Neoptolemus throws the baby from the walls of Troy. Finally, she is quite unbearably given as a concubine to Neoptolemus, her son's murderer. When we meet her in the Aeneid, she's now living in exile. She's now married to a fellow Trojan, but all she does is mourn her older family, which is understandable. She and her new husband Helenus have built a mini Troy, but it is just a sad ghost of the once mighty city. Andromache asks Aeneas to stay with them, and he's obviously tempted to stay with the familiar, to stop moving on. But again, we have a woman who chains Aeneas, preventing him from fulfilling his mission. All these women are in sharp contrast to the men in the epic, who, rather than stop Aeneas, are far more forward-thinking. His father, Anchises, and there is Aeneas carrying him, shows Aeneas the shades or ghosts of all future Romans, showing Aeneas the purpose of his mission, Rome's glorious future. In the middle, we see the forward-thinking Evander, who welcomes his prospective son-in-law to Italy, in contrast to his maddened wife Amata, who is spinning in rage like a top. And it is Jupiter, the king of the gods, who gives the mission to Aeneas in the first place, in contrast to his wife Juno, who does everything she can to stop it. This video discusses only one aspect of women in the Aeneid. There's much more to say about, for example, Camilla, the powerful warrior, Dido as a strong ruler, or Venus's ambiguous role as a mother. But for now, whenever you meet a woman in the Aeneid, you pretty much know that, unfortunately, it's not going to end well.